What if peak mental health isn't just the absence of illness? Welcome, everyone, to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here. We are jumping right in today to tackle a topic that affects, well, literally every single one of us, whether we actively realize it or not. We're going to break down the complexities of our minds, cut right through that confusing medical jargon, and most importantly, we're going to equip you with real, actionable solutions you can use right away.
So, back to that question. What if peak mental health isn't just the absence of illness? For the longest time, society viewed mental health strictly through this lens of deficits. Like, if you didn't have a diagnosed disorder, boom, you were considered healthy. But the World Health Organization flips that entirely on its head. They emphasize that peak mental health is about actively managing your wellness and happiness. It's a proactive state of well-being, not just some passive lack of illness.
To get us to that proactive state, here is our roadmap for today. 1. Defining mental health. 2. Stress, anxiety, or burnout. 3. Teens and social media. 4. Exercise as a treatment. 5. Having the conversation. And 6. Accessing affordable care.
Section 1. Defining mental health. What's really empowering about this definition is how the WHO describes it. They say mental health is a state that actively enables you to cope with stress and realize your own abilities. It's essentially the engine of your daily life, and it's something we all absolutely need to maintain, especially when you consider that almost 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental health problems each year. I mean, think about that. That means if it's not you, it is highly likely to be someone you sit next to, work with, or love.
And look, our mental well-being doesn't just exist in a vacuum, right? It depends on a super delicate balance of factors. Some of these are completely non-modifiable biological factors, things like our genetics or underlying medical conditions. But crucially, there are modifiable elements too, like socioeconomic pressure, our physical environment, and our support systems. Understanding this balance is honestly the first major step in removing the stigma and realizing that mental health is just a deeply complex, shared human experience.
Section 2. Stress, anxiety, or burnout. We throw around words like stressed or burnt out all the time in casual conversation, but scientifically and medically, untangling these terms is absolutely vital for getting the right kind of help. Data from the National Institute of Mental Health perfectly illustrates this core difference. Look at stress for a second. It is an external cause. It's that massive exam coming up, a crazy deadline, an argument with a friend. It's temporary, and when the deadline passes, the stress usually lifts. Anxiety, on the other hand, that is an internal reaction. It is a persistent sense of dread that stays turned on, just humming in the background, even when there is absolutely no immediate threat in the room.
And we see a very similar contrast between burnout and depression. Burnout is typically tied to a specific role, like your job or maybe intense caregiving duties. Setting boundaries, taking time off, or just reducing those demands can actually genuinely mitigate burnout. Depression is entirely different. It is systemic. It affects literally all areas of your life, coloring your hobbies, your relationships, and your baseline energy. It doesn't just magically go away because you took a long weekend. It requires a much more comprehensive intervention.
Section 3. Teens and social media.
Let's apply this understanding to a group under immense pressure today. According to some truly fascinating data from Pew Research, if you ask parents what is driving the teen mental health crisis, nearly half of them firmly point the finger right at social media. 44% cite it as the absolute main negative factor. And it makes sense. It's the most visible, obvious change in how kids grow up today compared to a generation ago.
But the perspective shifts completely when you actually ask the teenagers themselves. Yes, 22% of teens acknowledge social media is a primary negative factor, but they spread their concerns across a much wider, more complex reality. They heavily cite bullying at 17%, and the crushing weight of societal pressures and expectations at 16%. The teens are basically telling us, hey, the screen is only part of the story. The expectations of the real world are just as heavy.
I want to pause on this specific quote from a teen girl in the Pew survey because it just empathetically grounds all those statistics we just talked about. She said, "Everyone expects teens to have it all figured out. We are figuring life out too." It's such a powerful reminder that sometimes the absolute greatest pressure we put on young people is simply the expectation of perfection in an increasingly complicated world.
Section 4. Exercise as a treatment. Recognizing the problem is only half the battle, right? Let's pivot to solutions, starting with a super powerful, highly accessible tool, the biological power of exercise. We almost always think of hitting the gym purely for our physical health, to build muscle, improve cardio, that kind of thing. But clinical research, like this study published in the Scholars Research Library, demonstrates something incredible. Exercise actively alters your brain chemistry. It is a potent, non-pharmacological intervention for your mind.
And here is exactly why that happens. When you exercise, you basically become a chemical factory. You release endorphins, which literally reduce pain and induce euphoria. That's the famous runner's high everyone talks about. You boost serotonin and dopamine, which are the exact same mood-regulating neurotransmitters targeted by a lot of anti-anxiety and antidepressant medications. And amazingly, you produce BDNF. That's a protein that promotes neuroplasticity, actually helping your brain grow, adapt, and physically protect itself from chronic stress. How cool is that?
Section 5. Having the conversation.
Building on our own personal habits, like exercise, let's explore how we can show up for others. Because true connection, just having people in your corner who can help you and hear you, is one of the most powerful tools we possess. The Brain and Behavior Research Foundation lays out these excellent, totally practical steps for initiating a compassionate conversation with a friend. First, pick a quiet, private time, definitely not during a crisis. Second, speak from the heart with non-judgmental I statements like, "Hey, I've noticed you seem a bit down lately." Third, and honestly, this is the hardest for many of us, just listen. Don't immediately try to fix it. And finally, encourage them to seek professional help, but absolutely do not pressure them if they aren't ready.
Now, sometimes helping someone isn't just about talking. It's about guiding them through physical symptom management right in the moment. When severe anxiety hits, the body literally goes into fight or flight mode. Resources from organizations like Beyond Blue provide incredible, tangible coping strategies to short-circuit that physical panic before it spirals.
Here is a rapid, actionable technique you can use right now or guide a friend through if they need it. It's called progressive muscle relaxation. You sit quietly and adopt a really slow 6-second breathing cycle. Then, you systematically tense a muscle group, like clenching your fists as hard as you can for 10 seconds, and then completely, loosely relax it for 10 seconds. You move through your whole body, from your hands up to your shoulders and all the way down to your feet. It literally forces the physical tension out of your body, which signals your brain that it is, in fact, safe to calm down.
Section 6. Accessing affordable care.
Because as amazing as self-care, exercise, and peer support are, sometimes they just aren't quite enough. And hey, that is perfectly okay. We need to know how to find professional help when we really need it. The JED Foundation highlights that affordable therapy absolutely does exist, and here are actionable resources you can use today. In a crisis, dial or text 988 anytime, day or night. For youth, the Teen Line offers peer-to-peer support. Don't overlook school counseling or local community mental health centers either. They often operate on a sliding scale based on your income. And networks like the Open Path Collective provide deeply reduced-cost therapy. The point is, there is help out there and it is accessible. So we've covered the definitions, the literal chemical power of exercise, how to talk to a friend, and exactly where to find affordable care. But knowledge is only power if you actually apply it, right? So here is my question for you. Which small, actionable step will you take today to protect your own mental health or support someone else's? Maybe it's doing that 10-minute muscle relaxation. Maybe it's checking in on that friend you've been thinking about all week. Or maybe it's just going for a walk outside. Whatever it is, take that step. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay curious. And please, take care of your mind.